Hello and welcome to this week's script tip. Now this week we'll be looking at different types of story structure that will help you structure your plot in an effective and interesting way. First we're going to have a look at the traditional 3-act structure, but then we're also going to have a look at slightly less traditional forms of structure to add a bit of storytelling spice to our game. Now many of you already know what 3-act structure is. Simply put, it's a beginning, a middle and an end. So, how does this break down? In the first act, we're introduced to your characters, we're introduced to your setting, and we're introduced to your situation, the world around the whole script. At the end of Act 1, that's around 10 pages or 10 minutes into the film, we have an inciting incident. The inciting incident is what provides all the conflict and all the tension in the script. It's what kicks off your story. Now, Act 2 is normally the longest part of a film, and that's because it provides us with the most plot. It's the story of trying to resolve that inciting incident. So if you're writing a hero story, it might be your hero trying to defeat the monster. The key to Act 2 is that he never actually does it. The resolution you need never actually takes place. It's a roller coaster of emotions, but you don't win in the end. Now in Act 3, which starts around 75 pages into the script, you get the resolution at the end. All the tension, everything that's in the script comes to a head, and it looks as if the resolution might not be found. It looks like your hero might not win, but they find inner strength, or they're helped by their friends, or a situation changes and the tension is resolved. Now, let's see how that works in an actual film. Act 1. We're introduced to the setting, the characters, and the situation. Around 10 minutes in, boom, inciting incident. Act 2, a roller coaster ride of near wins and near misses, slowly coming to a head to look like the heroes can't possibly win. Then, Act 3, the heroes gather themselves, face the danger, and usually come out on top. Now, because 3-act structure has been around for so long, it's kind of become our de facto mode of storytelling. In fact, it's been around so long that we've even discovered universal subtypes of 3-act structure. That basically means that there are plot lines and story structures that are the same the world and time over. It doesn't matter what culture or what time period they were written in, they follow the same plot structure. One such story structure is Joseph Campbell's monomyth, which is essentially a permutation on the traditional hero story structure, and it goes like this. It's got, again, 3 distinct sections. The first section is separation. It basically means that the hero, the protagonist of your story, answers a call. They have to leave their traditional family, village, city, life, because they witness or hear something that has to change their lives forever. The second part, the second act, is the initiation stage. In this stage, the hero goes through a number of trials, a number of tribulations, they go up and down the emotional roller coaster, and at the end of this stage, they have to do something extraordinary. They have to challenge themselves to their very utmost of their ability in order to save their family, save a loved one, save the village, whatever. Then the very last stage is the return. After they have succeeded in defeating the film's main baddie, they return to the village and are lauded as the winners of the situation. Can you think of any films that have done this recently? I'm coming back. Okay, now for something slightly weirder. Let's leave the traditional beginning, middle, end structure behind and look for something slightly more creative, something slightly stranger. Have you ever seen Alejandro González Iñárritu's 21 Grams? It tells a story of several people involved in a horrific car crash, but it tells it in a completely non-linear, non-chronological fashion. What matters in the story is not so much the inciting incident as the characters and their relationships, what brought them together and what tears them apart. So instead of being like one person telling you a story, this story structure is a lot more like recounting an incident and hearing it from the perspectives of many different people who were there. In fact, if represented in pictorial form, you might find that this type of story structure resembles say, people sitting around a campfire more than a linear line of a narrative, which is handy because it derives from the way nomadic and traditional cultures tell their stories. At nighttime, gathered around a fire with everyone present giving their own perspective on a shared event. Of course, there are many different types of story structure, and I'm not going to cover them all here because if I did this video it would be several hours long. But if you're interested in learning more about story structure with particular focus on screenwriting, you might want to have a look at the following 4 guys. Firstly, there's John Truby and his 22-step story structure. Then we have Chris Vogler and his hero's journey, and those 2 guys do classes at Raindance, so keep an eye out for when they're next here. Then we have Robert McKee, and he's got a story structure called The Quest. And finally, Mike Houge and his 6 steps of story structure. Now, just want to put a little caveat in here. Knowing about story structure will not actually make you write any better. All it will do is be able to structure your stories so they kind of make a bit more sense. If you want to learn how to write better, you might want to take a few words of advice from South Park creator and Raindance alumnus, Trey Parker.
What should happen between every beat that you've written down is either the word therefore or but.
That's it for this week, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and hopefully you now know how to structure your stories a little bit better. If you liked the video, please do like the video below and subscribe to our newsletter and subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to everything Raindance does so you can keep in touch. See you next week.